Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to some of y'all and peace out to the rest of you. You already know who it is and who it ain't. It ain't your boy and it is your man, the blackest hearted, blackest minded, blackest man on social media, signing black and shining again. So get your flashlights because you're going to need them and hit that share button because the message is more important than the messenger. This time we're getting started off with 9. Thank you a million times over. Those of you who hit the share button and those of you that answered. Red Reams, wa alaikum salam. Don Calypso, Sapase. So yesterday there was a particular accusation I didn't really address. I talked about it, but I didn't focus on it. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on it. I didn't want to talk much about a movie that I don't have access to see here in the Gulf. And many of you do have access to see it where you are. So you're going to see it before I would. And as it turns out by now, most of you have seen it and I still have not. Now, this movie, my son did wind up seeing it, and he said that it's entertaining. And that's fine. But what was important to me is that my son peeped game, too. He noticed that in the storyline, the main character was drugged and raped by modern definitions. And he was, in fact, the father of a son that he didn't know he had because of this drugging and rape. In the movie, and y'all know which one it is, the rapist wound up becoming buddies with the rape victim's wife, and he was never expected to, nor did he express in the movie problems with being raped under circumstances that are unacceptable when it happens to women. That are really unacceptable, period, but that are agreed to be unacceptable when happening to women. So I'm going to tell you all about the story. Hold up, man. We went from 9 to 8. What the fuck is that, man? Hit the share button, y'all, again. I'm sorry. Somebody bounced out. I should say go grab them, but that wouldn't be gentlemanly of me or civilized. So I'll tell y'all a story from my own past before I left the USA. Some of y'all might remember me saying that I had this one good job back in the USA, just one in my whole adult life. Well, when I was working that job, there was this lady named Justice, and that really was her name. That's her family name. Now, I call her Jessica Justice because even though her first name wasn't Jessica, everyone would mistakenly remember her name as such because her last name was Justice. So then everybody would call her Jessica Justice. So part of the job involved driving long distances to some archive centers. And on one drive from work back to the hotel in which we were housed, Jessica chatted with the driver and me, and she told us that women lie about their sexual interest to men all the time, and that they do it because they find it advantageous to lie, but that they think about sex and worry about it as much as men do. And she wasn't the first to tell me so. She was the first woman to tell me this. Now, she wasn't the first woman I'd heard say this. She's the first one I can remember, first lady I can remember telling me this while looking another man and me in the face and confessing this to us. I heard women say this before to others in real life and through media depictions, but this is first time I can recall a lady saying it to me live. So I was a husband and father of 3 by this time. I have as many kids then as I do now, just to show you how much they try to hide and for how long they'll do it. So I asked her what the advantage was, because it led to people being unforgiving of sexual looseness in women and not in men, and that this lack of knowledge was the basis for the double standard. Now, she didn't answer because the driver chimed in with another question, and she distracted, answered that question and forgot about mine. And I don't remember why I didn't press on it later. But on another ride home later on, the same 3 of us were in the same car. And she was in the back crying and sniffling, but she told us there was nothing wrong. I knew she was being moved to another project in another location. And I knew that that project was managed by this big old greasy mayonnaise mafioso who meant well, but he was about as disorganized as random can get. He was so bad, he almost made me miss a flight on my first week of working with him. People were being blamed for stuff they didn't do. Now, the project manager at the location from which she was about to be moved, our project manager, was the one that moved me out of that crazy project to protect me, because he knew that in that chaotic environment, the biggest and perfect scapegoat, the most obvious scapegoat, is the black guy. And that was me. So there were two of us. And he got us moved over to his new project. And so we were working there. Now, here's the deal, y'all. He knew what was going on. I thank that man to this day. He was fair, and he even preempted trouble for me. So if I had to defend if there was ever a Caucasian I have to defend, he'd be one of those. But in the end, this is what happened. One night, they were all out drinking. And Jessica Justice got so plastered, she lost the hotel room key, God knows where. She was too drunk to remember which was her room number. So she couldn't tell the desk clerk. They couldn't look her up and print out another one to get her into her own room. They didn't know where she was, and she didn't know which one she was supposed to stay in. So the project manager he'd been out drinking with them. So he said, look, as a project manager, I'll take responsibility for your well-being. You can stay in my bed. I'm sleeping on the couch because my room has a couch. So she got up the next morning. She couldn't recall how she got into another room. And then she saw the project manager sleeping on his couch. So she was all creeped out and everything. And she started gossiping to other people about how creeped out she felt, instead of asking him what she couldn't remember. And they told her what happened to her. They were like, well, yeah, you got so plastered you couldn't remember your own room number. So he said you could stay there. But somebody went and told the project manager too. Said, bro, she talking about how creepy she felt, how creeped out she felt when you let her stay in your bed because she was drunk. And we wouldn't let her stay in our beds because we didn't want her puking in them. So that's how the project manager even found out that she couldn't remember how she got there. She was worried that he felt up or violated or something, and people had to tell her, you were out of it. He didn't do anything like that. You just got so drunk that he did you a favor because you couldn't get to where you should have been on your own. How'd you get that plastered? But because of her gossip, she messed it up. So after he did this favor for someone and it came back to bite him on the butt, and she felt all creeped out. And this is an old white dude. He's from a different generation. He's like, look, I probably was supposed to try to fill you up, but I didn't. He simply transferred her instead of firing her. But the only place that there was to send her was that project that was chaotic and in such bad shape, nobody wanted to go there if they could help it. People would go there and get fired a few days later. That's how bad it was. Nobody knew whose fault anything was. So this was a case in which I thanked Allah for guiding me to Islam, because I wasn't going on there drinking nights out with her. And I never told him I was Muslim. I just told him I couldn't drink, that my liver was shot. And that, that's about what I told him. So everybody knew she'd been too drunk. Everybody knew what happened. Everybody knew what was going on except for her. And she was so ditzy that she even lost the room key. So everybody knew nobody had done anything to her. But her mouth, her gossip, she just had to be a victim, wound up getting her transferred away. And she didn't cry when she was gossiping to people about how creeped out she felt. But when she found out she was going to that project where people were getting fired left and right, then she cried in the car. And there was nothing she could have done to reverse it, because she was up there gossiping instead of simply asking anybody that was there, what happened? How'd I get there? If he had done anything to her, nobody would have excused it. I wouldn't excuse it, and he himself would not have excused it, knowing him. But see, when it's reversed, it's okay. And you're wondering, now, what does this have to do with what I'm talking about right now? Hey, LaRue, bom dia. What's going on, LOM? J Ham. Y'all hit the share button, please, gentlemen. So even if he had done anything, the kind of guy he was, he'd have been like, oh, no, that's sick. And so to tie this into the title of this thing, the point I'm making is that we already know what happens when it's reversed. And I'm going to tie it all in together. When it's reversed, it's so acceptable that it can be a central and necessary plot element for a comedy movie sequel. That's why Cardi B's not behind bars, but Nicki Minaj's hubby had to do time, and he should have had to do time. The police in New York, they'll say, well, look, we need a complaint to arrest her. But even still, We already know that if anybody comes forward, he's going to be told to take that loss, and he's going to be shamed for trying to buy the draws anyway, as if the draws are out there free for normal men, knowing doggone well they're not free for normal men. It doesn't matter which route you go. If you go the marriage route, the boyfriend route, or the tricking route, it ain't free. The tricking route just might cost you the least because you're really paying them not to bother you afterwards. That's really what's going on. Now, trying to buy some relief in the whole tricking thing is not okay in my faith, but it's now being treated as though it makes one deserve to be robbed and even violated without any consent by the very gender in which we're not interested, our own gender. So when a woman has sex of any kind while intoxicated or incapacitated, nothing about her is questioned. Even if the man was sober, is not questioned. What if he was equally as intoxicated? Nobody cares. The idea is pushed that women have a right to take sex from men, but we understand that the only women who have an interest in taking it are the ones to whom it's not offered. And most women get offers at some point in their lives. They get multiple offers. So this is pretty much boys being set up again, the young guys being set up the same way we were set up, to not value male sexuality and chastity enough to care if these things are taken from them chemically by women or by force by other men. These things have nothing in common with each other except one thing. They're all unenjoyable for us, for hetero men. Nothing else ties these things that they're pushing in common with each other. If you think about it, what do they all have in common? It ain't what we want. Nothing else. It's okay that someone with as little visual appeal as Leslie Jones drugs a man and takes it while he's not himself. Why? He's a man and she's not much to look at. Doesn't matter. He's a king and she can't get a king with the king's options otherwise, even if it's just for a roll in the hay, because he wouldn't enjoy that. So it's okay for her to drug him and take it. Most men wouldn't enjoy this. This makes it okay for her to take it by stealth. This is also why people find it funny when a man gets violated in prison, no matter how nonviolent his crime is. It's seen as okay. It's par for the course. He's supposed to have to fight guys off of him in the shower. What's being reinforced to men is that we are not to enjoy sexual encounters, and that we should feel lucky for even those unenjoyable experiences. Got raped by a woman, you should feel lucky it wasn't by a man. Got raped by a man, it's your fault somehow. Only pursued by ugly women, so you should make it enjoyable for them. If you enjoy it too much, then you're probably a criminal of some sort, and you need to be locked up with other men away from women so that you get that worst experience only and none other at that point, because y'all are all locked up away from women. See, the young girls and women are also being trained and have been for generations, and they're being trained for another generation to also hate to see you as a man enjoy it too much. They're being trained to enjoy seeing you not enjoy your experiences with them. And they're trained to not enjoy seeing you if you do enjoy it. Because see, remember, this movie was partially made by a star. I mean, I don't know if he was the director, but he's one of those that called the shots and how it was going to be cast in the plot line. And he's trained, as are the rest of us. You could tell because T. Hassan Johnson talked about how he was interviewed about the death of his father. He was trained to not see his father as a person that was murdered, but rather as a happy-go-lucky Negro who had too much charm and enjoyed too many women until one understandably murdered him for his success with other women. No wonder black men are trained to see consensual sex with attractive women as some sort of conquest, even more than other men around the world are trained to see it that way. This is why we can understand how the minister got his mentality at a young age. We can understand that. Wa alaikum salam, Jaws. What's going on, Red Sif? See, for this reason, we can understand how he got that mentality. We got it, not just him. We were raised with it. Subconsciously, we saw that there was a world out there that was against black male heterosexuality and that ridiculed black male chastity so much that we thought we didn't have any naturally. So we were taught that a chaste black male was just an alphabet mafioso, that's all. Oh, he's not chaste, nothing like that. He doesn't just value himself. He's not being picky. No, man, he's something wrong with him. He just doesn't want women. He wants another dude. That's how we were trained to think. Because, you know, real boys and men never turn down a trim, right? Now, a man that's unexposed to my doctrine and faith and unexposed to this sphere might really hear nothing else to counter that. But the minister is a prominent voice in this sphere. So he's been exposed to the counter. He's the one who can call them German shepherds without getting the usual tropes in return because of the receipts on social media, right? Isn't he the one that can say whatever he wants and they can't reply and say you're just bitter because you didn't get to smut out so-and-so in your teens? Isn't that him? That's what he's known for. If they say anything, he shuts them up with his Instagram page. So he knows. He understands the damage because, see, since he knows, that means he understands the damage of a false accusation. This is nothing new to him. He knows how hurtful it can be. Didn't he express sympathy with Brian Banks before? Tell me if anybody, did any of you ever hear the minister express sympathy with Brian Banks for what he went through? I'll wait while anybody answers in the chat to see if they expressed it. What's going on? Great as me. Good morning, sir. So did anybody ever hear Minister Japp express sympathy with Brian Banks? I'm just asking because I want to say that I heard it, but my memory could be bad. I've got a lot of stuff to remember all the time. So I'm giving anybody a chance to correct me and set me straight. Okay. All right. So LOM says he does not remember hearing him say that. So that means that my memory is the one that's bad. And that's why I'm asking. Thanks for letting me know and setting me straight. So he did not express it. I still hold on to my point that my point being that he knows the damage of these accusations. He understands. And how do we know? Now, Red Sith Lord, the Brian Banks situation is it's one in which this high school athlete who was a promising athlete. I mean, he had a scholarship already out in California in LA. Apparently he made out with a high school chick. Trying to remember what Juanetta, I think her name was Juanetta. Juanetta was either her name or her aunt's name. No, it was her name. So apparently they made out at some spot, but they were seen by a guard, one of the security guards. So without any full-blown sexual contact, they split up, went back to class. Somewhere down the line, she decided, I don't know if she was interrogated first or if she just decided to go ahead and report him, but she went ahead and accused him of rape. And reason that she did it was because of pressure. They were already questioning her, or she knew they were going to question her. So she went ahead and made the accusation. He never went to his house again after that. He was picked up from the school by deputies and taken into custody. That was the last time he was free until he was released. He had to do some time. He had to take a plea deal because he was going to get a lot of time, or at least his public defender told him that. So when he finally got out, a friend of his whose dad was a private investigator helped set up a meeting with the lady that accused him. And this happened after she requested him as a friend on Facebook, right? So then he asked her to meet him somewhere in public where she should feel safe. And he was like, why did you even lie like that? And she admitted that she had been pressured into it, but she admitted it was a lie. So this was done in a private investigator's office. So the evidence was there. The investigator in whose office this was set up got the evidence where she said that she lied because. So that got his conviction vacated. And yeah, that's right, J-Ham. Eventually, the mom, I think it was, settled with the district and got some money. And now they have to pay the money back. Well, that means they've been going into hiding. So now the so-called victim, Juanetta, has a baby. She and her mother and the baby got to be in hiding because if they work on the books, the wages are going to be garnished. I mean, they owe in the millions. They done already blown through the money they got. And that's what happened to Brian Banks. So these kinds of accusations are not a joke. Being blamed as a black man is taken seriously. And I want to make something very plain here. When I got ready to leave the United States and I was going to come to the Gulf, one of the things my father said to me was, listen, son, You didn't come up during Jim Crow segregation. You didn't come up during the era of lynchings. But what you're going to be dealing with is a mindset very similar. When you get there, even though your religion's the same as theirs. See, my dad's not Muslim, but I am. So my dad said, even though your religion's the same as theirs, you treat those women the way that we had to treat white women in Mississippi back in Jim Crow. Don't look them in the face. If they speak to you, you look down and you just say yes or no, and you keep on walking. That's what my father was saying. My dad was like, I understand, Don Calypso, I get it. My dad was pretty much telling me. And one thing he said was, if you get in trouble over there behind them women, because understand, if you're over there, son, and you're not supposed to bother them women, that means they're supposed to leave you alone too. So you're the forbidden fruit. And be careful. If you don't want me to kill first Arab I see, be careful. Because if you get in trouble out there and they hurt you because of something like that, I'm gonna grab the first one I see over here. I remember my dad saying I might even grab a Creole thinking he's Arab and get him. So be careful. That's what my father was telling me. I said, well, Pop, you're not gonna have to grab anybody behind me. Thank you for the advice. I plan to be careful. I don't even plan on walking too close to someone I don't know. And I took it seriously. It had an impact on me just hearing about this stuff, just reading about Emmett Till. It had me uneasy around the mayonnaise mafiosa women when I lived in the States. So I was already trained. When I got here, when I landed in the Gulf, you don't say nothing to them. It has to be about business. And in that case, it's fine. It's business. You go into the hospitals, they work in there, you're allowed to tell them why you're there, that's cool. But I never forget my first full day there. I had to go take some photographs and submit them at a hospital along with a particular test. Because back then you did a follow-up test after you landed. And this lady that worked at the hospital, fluently bilingual, said, bring back 3 photographs. And I said, 3 or 2? And she said, you bring back 3, 2 for the hospital and 1 for me to keep. And I said, wait, where do you keep it, ma'am? In a file? She said, I'm putting it on my dresser, man. Like she's telling me I'm flirting. And I said, ma'am, am I going to get in trouble for that? Is that legal? And I remember her telling me, it is if I say it's legal. So in other words, and I knew, do what she says because I had a reason to have the photograph. But if I made her mad, she could have caused trouble. So I knew not to make her mad. Now imagine this had been Mississippi in the 50s and she was a little curious and we were by ourselves off in the woods. Now I was a married man at this point. So I understood, that's when I learned what can happen, what used to be able to happen a long time ago. And so let me tell y'all about this. The driver, an Egyptian cat, a little bit of a fundamentalist, but he was ill-tempered, but he was a bit of a fundamentalist in certain ways. He started to lecture me about, and he didn't even speak English. She and I had this conversation in English. I didn't know any sentences in Arabic at the time, except what's the weather tomorrow? Do you speak English? I knew how to say I'm from the coast of the Gulf of Mexico. I knew how to say that. Those are the only sentences I knew. This dude here didn't speak any English, certainly not in sentences. And here he was lecturing, trying to lecture me about the way she and I talked. I said to him, this is a hospital. I'm answering her questions. You don't even know what she said, man. How about you close your mouth? This dude gonna sit up and lecture me about it. And I had done nothing except obey directions. And I was thankful at that point that we weren't in the Jim Crow South, because where we were, I would have had a chance to tell my side of the story if he and I got into it. He would not have had, in the South, I would have never had that type of chance. So Minister Japp is sitting up here talking all this stuff right now at this point about us being perverts with passports. Gentlemen, if you think about it, and this is where you all come in, because this is something that not even so much him, but people, innocent people who may really believe what he's saying, this is what they need to hear and understand. A black man who can travel on his own as an adult with his passport cannot be stupid enough to do something illegal in a third world country with a third world prison. You would not dream of stuff like this if you are that anybody listening that actually is that sick to do something illegal with anybody that's incapacitated, like someone underage. Anyone that actually is that sick is not going to travel to these countries to do something like that if they're black. I got a South African colleague. He's my neighbor now. He lives next door. If I walk 5 feet over and slap the wall, he'll hear it in his apartment downstairs. A few years ago, he took his family on a trip to Thailand because, families vacation there too. And this is important. I want y'all to understand this. He's a South African that's neither black nor white. He went with his family because from the Gulf, they're cheap flights, or there were cheap flights at that time. It cost hardly anything to fly there and stay there. Y'all remember that? You remember the Saudi girl that ran off from her family? She went through the Kuwaiti airport and caught a flight straight to Thailand. That's how cheap it is. It's so cheap she could walk off from her family, drop a little change at the counter, get on the flight, land in Bangkok, and flee from her family. Just to give you an idea. So this man went on the trip. He came back after the vacation. We had all come back from wherever we went and spent time. I'm pretty sure that I'd gone to North Africa, because at this time I was married to somebody living in North Africa. That was the first time I was happily married. Coming back from that vacation, asking each other where you all go, where did you go, what did you see? And he said, I went to Thailand, I took the family there, and it was disgusting. I was like, well, wait a minute, man. I mean, you went with your family. What did you see that was disgusting? He said, well, no, it's not the country. No, that's not it. It's who was there. See, he knew that people went to Thailand for certain nefarious reasons. Everybody knows. He thought that he was going to go to a part of Thailand that they didn't go to because families would go there. That's what he was thinking. He said even where they weren't supposed to be, these sicko mayonnaise mafioso people were there. He said they weren't even hiding the fact that they were looking for kids. What black man you know from any country in the world, the States or anywhere else, believes that he could fly to a place like this and be that sick and get away with it? Nobody thinks that. See, that first story I told y'all about where my project manager was being gossiped about by a lady he tried to help because she had no liquor control. She couldn't control her alcohol. Didn't think he was going to get away with it. He's mafioso, old cat too. He'd been in the business a long time. He was long in the tooth in more ways than one. Experience. He was a project manager. He had a project going smoothly. He was great at his job. I'd work for him again. I wish he would go into teaching English as a second language. Boy, he had his project going smooth once he learned the business. But he did not expect to get away with this stuff. So he went on the offense and didn't fire her, but he went on the offense and sent her exactly where she was going. And that's the only place to send her. At that time, there was no other place. So he didn't expect to get away with that. There are mayonnaise mafiosos that go different places and expect to get away with that. That's true. And expect to get away with a lot of stuff all the time. I mean, she was down in the Caribbean, I think in the Cayman Islands, and she was flouting the mask laws. And guess what happened? I think she had to go to court and do some kind of sentence for it. I don't remember what the sentence was, but she didn't escape the consequences of it. But she thought she was going to. So they do exist. Even the mayonnaise mafia split between those who think they're going to get away with breaking people's rules in their house and those who know that they're going to pay the consequences. I'll tell y'all one other story, and this was real short. Chinese businessman apparently went to Thailand. He decided, buy some relief. And whatever happened, he got into an argument with the pro he was buying from, and he killed her. Now, he did this in Thailand with a Chinese passport. You know what them Thai police did? They didn't flip a guck about his passport, citizenship, or the superpower behind it. They took him to the police station. What's going on, Gary Ardema? They took him to the police station like they're supposed to, took him up to the very top roof of the police station and pushed him down, gave him free flying lessons, told him, you better figure out how to fly before you land. And he didn't. They killed him. Now that's a superpower, a rising superpower, right next furthermucking door to them. And they did this. So what you think they're going to do to one of us? Because see, those of us who travel know we're not always recognized right off the bat as American at first glance. Sometimes we are. It may take about 10 seconds for somebody to figure it out. Maybe they got to hear us talk. But at the end of the day, we don't expect to get away with stuff. We don't necessarily expect to have special privileges when it comes to the law. We understand that we may be more selected by the local ladies there, and sometimes even by businesses. To a certain extent. I mean, there are people here that they love to have Black Americans teaching English. We can actually relate to the Arabs more than a lot of white teachers can. They love that. With native speakers on one hand, same with Black Brits, with native speakers on one hand, and we can relate to the Arabs more so than many times the mayonnaise mafioso teachers can. Black South African teachers tend to do quite well with them, actually. White South African teachers, not so much. They flip out and they lose their mind because they actually do think that they can get away with certain things and then they can't. I remember when I was in the first town that I lived in this country, smaller than where I live right now. And on a Thursday after, because our weekends start on Thursdays here. So on a Thursday afternoon, when we just finished work, we had to make the weekly shopping run. I was talking to a white Canadian cat. And he's an easygoing guy. He was easy to get along with. His thing was just don't call me the word Kaffir, because to me, it's a racial term they use in South Africa. It doesn't have a religious meaning. He flash out, lose his mind. That's the only thing that would set him off. Everything else pretty much fine. He was a good dude, good people, easy to socialize with. This cat and I were talking, and then a local walked up to us and spoke to us in fluent English because he heard us speaking English. Spoke to us in fluent English. He said, is either one of you American? And I said, well, I'm from Africa and he's from Canada. I didn't say that I was American. He looked at me and he said, are you African American? And I said, yes. And he said, could you please talk to this guy that I picked up from the airport? I just picked him up from the airport here. And he's already asking me, where do you go to find women? In this country? And I looked at him, I said, man, so here in this country, he's asking you that. And he said to me, yeah. And I said, well, I'm gonna tell you straight up. There's only one way I can talk to this guy. You gotta talk to me in Arabic. And I answered you back a few times because I understand, Red Sith Lord, go ahead, man. I told him, you gotta act like I'm a fluent English speaker, but like I'm actually a local and I'm an undercover police officer. You're gonna have to do that. We gotta scare this dude. Can't you just tell him? I said, no, I can't. When I speak, he's gonna know I'm African American. He's not gonna listen to me. Why do you think he's sitting there talking to you? I already know he's a white guy. And I said this right in front of the Canadian cat, white Canadian. I said, he's an American. I already know he's a white guy because we know you can't go in someone else's house and do exactly what they said is illegal to do. We know that. This guy doesn't flip a guck. That's what's going on. So we understand that. You don't really have to know this so you can retort to Minister Jap if you want to, or you can. It's up to you. But what we got to understand is the people that listen to this need to hear this stuff. They need to know, no. In every case, that's not what's going on. The black men that do have such nasty proclivities that are atypical for us aren't leaving the country to do it because you don't want to go to a third world prison for some stuff like that. You all remember that guy that was he had an ADOS mother, but his dad was German, and he was in trouble for this stuff in Atlanta, and then he fled on a German passport and ran off to the DR in Colombia. Y'all remember that cat? I'm trying to remember what his name. I think it's Miko, and they were trying to blame him on us. Y'all remember that? What's going on, Sir Obadiah? Who in here can remember that cat? Anybody remember him? I think his name was Miko, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it was something like that. So he went and got arrested. Miko Worldwide, yeah. Yeah. He was known for that, but he got arrested. That's right, Jaws. But see, Michael or Miko he got picked up for that. He got picked up for them charges that he's facing stateside. Now, I don't know what wound up happening to him. I'm really not sure. But what I do know is this. When he was going to do some sick stuff like that, it was going to be in Atlanta. See, when he fled, he didn't flee to do those same things over in those countries, because you don't survive in third world jails if you got a target on your back. Everybody wants you, because the only one that's responsible for your safety is that host country, and if they can't protect their own who are accused, their own citizens that are in these prisons accused of these particular nasty crimes for which everybody else wants to kill them, they're not going to be able to protect a foreign national for this stuff. Or if they do, it's more expensive because it's not a part of their routine. So what I'm saying is that it doesn't make any logical sense for the men with those proclivities. See, guys, let me ask you all this right quick. If you're going to do something and you're going to have to do some time, which country would you fly to do it? Straight up. If you're going to do something sick, which country are you going to fly to do it if you're going to have to do some time for it? I can tell y'all straight, if I have to do some time for something that I can't stop doing, I'm going to fly to one of the Scandinavian countries where they got those cushy jails. You got your own place with your own key to your own place. And you got rooms, to put up books and everything else. And it's like you in a dorm a dorm room by yourself. That's where I'm going to go. If I have to do time, I fly to one of them countries and just turn myself in and be like, yeah, I'm here to overthrow your government. You see what I'm saying? I wouldn't even go to the States for stuff like that. I wouldn't even do it. Hell, in Denmark, if you escape, you don't. No, I'm saying if you do have to do time, LaRue. I mean, if you have an addiction and you got to do time for it, like you can't stop doing something, but you're gonna get caught. So you want to go somewhere where the prisons are the best. Then, if that's the case, I'd go to Denmark, because if you do escape, when you go back, they catch you. When you go back, you have to do the rest of your sentence, but you don't get extra time added on for the escape itself. Hell, I go to Denmark. I mean, I know it's cold in them countries, but hey, I'm gonna be in prison. I don't have to be outdoors in the wintertime. That's what I would do. Matter of fact, that sounds like a good idea. If they start deciding to frame me back in the States for something, because they do that sometimes. They did it with A-Trap Brown. I just catch a flight to Denmark and like, hey, look, I'm here to overthrow your government. Straight up. Yeah, that's what I'm here to do. And where's the judge so I can tell him that that's what I came to do? I'll just stay there. You're not going to be free. Might as well stay in a place like that. If you're going to be there, if you are one of them sickos, why would you leave the States to go somewhere where, oh Lord, Mafi Antahe, Luni Aswad, Shlona Botla Dola, Kemunachin Janub, Abardekwe Bahalo Laglo, Botla Dola, Tumake Bohudin Decheni. I hope I said that correctly. So it's not something that anybody in their right mind would necessarily, Kalo Shokti. It's not necessarily something anybody in the right mind would do. So when people start coming against you because you got passports and you're not willing to just sit still and deal with the wicked witch of the West, then that's what you got to do. Just go ahead and tell them that. What kind of sense does that make? If I'm a pervert, I'm not going to fly to a tropical country to do this stuff, a third world country. If I'm a pervert, I'm not going to go somewhere where the jails are bad, because you're going to get caught if you do it. You're not going to do it and never get caught. It's not the way that works. You're not going to fly to no Laos or Cambodia from Vietnam to do that. You ain't going to fly to the Philippines to do that. Who ever flew to the Philippines to go to prison? I mean, people flying that go there, but whoever flew there for the purpose of going to prison? And what black man you know is going to catch a flight with an expensive ticket just to go to prison in the third world, where there ain't no other black folks or hardly any others? That makes no sense by anybody's stretch of the imagination. I wouldn't go to prison in the UK if I have a choice. So we're going to have to start questioning the IQs of these people that say stuff like this. And we also have to start asking, we also have to start questioning some other things about them, like their race loyalty. See, what they're going to do is they're going to try to sit up here and say that you somehow were not even race loyal. They're going to put this on you. You have to question their race loyalty, as a matter of fact. And here's why. For one, their IQ can't be too good. And they're sitting up and saying that men with predilections that can get them killed elsewhere would fly to directly where they're going to get killed for these things. Jaw said Jaw said somebody got caught in the Philippines for doing that, and they only gave him 2 years. I'm surprised he survived it. Boat Ladola, to answer your question, as a matter of fact, Boat Ladola, bring your country behind on up here. To answer your question, Boat Ladola, there's a man on YouTube, and what I'll do is I'll send you his name on WhatsApp. Even though I've already said it, I'll send it to you on WhatsApp. He's not the only one. As A. LaRue said, plenty of people do it, but he's the latest one. He was on Facebook talking about black men that get passports and travel to buy the draws or not. They don't have any game. They're just lame. And to a certain extent, I mean, you and I don't even recommend that kind of thing anyway. You and I don't recommend tricking, going to pay for the relief. We don't recommend fornication. The problem is that he's not addressing it from that angle. He's pretty much saying you don't get passports and go and deal with women from other countries just because you can't handle the wicked witch of the West. He's saying if you can't handle the wicked witch of the West, the problem is you, it's not her. He's one of those cats. And we got quite a few of them in our community, amongst African Americans, that say this dumb stuff. And so we're going in on him. And I'm one of those doing that. He's the same kind of guy that doesn't mind. I mean, if you drug him, and this may have happened to him. Maybe a woman drugged him at some point and maybe took his drawers, the minister. Maybe that happened. I don't know. If somebody, Assalamu alaikum Abdullah, if somebody did do this to him, he's the type that wouldn't even think it was wrong. He would think, oh, she drugged me and took me. Yeah, I'm the man. I got him drugging me to try to get some. He would feel like this is some kind of validation. That's how he is. What he doesn't understand is that, number one, if a woman's willing to drug a man to get that from him, she already has nefarious purposes. It's not just about lust. It's not that they don't have lust as a motive. It's that they're not necessarily going to do that because of lust. Because we already know a woman's sex drive is not going to motivate her that much because they feel it shouldn't have to. Here's the thing, LOM. He said that he owns a passport. He said that on his Facebook page. But what he said is that if I want to go somewhere, I'll take a bee with me. That's what he said. That's not wrong, but it's like but for a guy like him, according to him, who's such a player, and he seems to be a player from Instagram, seems to prove it with receipts. If that's the case, that's taking sand to the beach. What he's pretty much saying is that he looks down on them because they're third world and they might not speak English. That's what he's pretty much saying. He's actually buying into this notion that he's being validated. He's buying into that notion that the Western woman has validated him. And maybe so, but again, we already know a lot of people don't get that. It's not something they normally do, even when they want to. That's something he keeps forgetting. They don't validate a lot of the men they want to validate. They don't think for themselves. And so if that's what's going on, and they don't think for themselves when they make these decisions in men, then how is that validation when they do pick you, but you see how they live their lives and you're so appalled that you get on and make a channel and a name for yourself by telling us how trifling they are, even though they validate you? That's what he's not understanding. You cannot sit up. I'm not sure which one it is, to be honest with you. I'm not sure. LM, I don't know if he's telling the truth or not. Yeah, that's right, Jaws. He did do that. He did say something about the hygiene and how bad it was. He did say something about that. Now, I ain't gonna front. I did know biblically someone outside the states that needed to use some mouthwash. But the problem was that that's what I saw back in the States too. It was an issue back in the States. Matter of fact, one of the things that lowered my libido so much when I was young was the fact that a lot of people in general had rotten breath. But, didn't matter to me what a dude's breath smelled like if I didn't have to sit too close to him while talking. But, for the ladies, it's like, okay, so let me get this straight. Because you look nice, you're not going to floss. You're not going to scrape your tongue. You're not going to brush your tongue with some scented toothpaste either. So because you look nice, you're going to forget about your breath, but you paranoid about a man's breath. Now, how about you fit the gunk out of my face with that short? But that was one of the things that messed it up for me. So I ain't going to front, man. That he might be right about that to a certain extent, but it doesn't make them different from the ones in the Western world. And J Ham is right, man. J Ham's got a point. In the West, they look at a normal cat after they done got old, hit the wall, got too fat and too funky. So if that's the case, J Ham's right. Yeah, a lot of Western ones don't floss, especially the ones that got all that makeup on. They don't floss because the makeup routine involves so much that they forget about the dental hygiene. So what Minister Jap is saying is true probably throughout the world. Now, if he's talking about the hygiene down below, never experienced it. Then again, I'm not a male slut. But what's going on, Fullaman? Salam alaikum.
Walaikum salam rahmatullah barakatuh. How are you doing?
Come vai, signore?
Bim.
Okay. All right. I forgot how to say I am in Portuguese.
You can just say ooh.
Okay. All right. So yeah, Iobem, I forgot also as well. Yeah. But I used to know how to say it in Fulani, and I forgot. I used to know how to say I'm doing okay.
You can just say jam in Fulani.
Jam. Okay. All right.
Yeah. If like you're having peace or whatever, you can just say jam tune, which means like peace only. That means like I'm good. You know what I mean?
Okay,
But
fair
yeah,
enough then.
Jamtun means like I'm good in
Okay.
Fuba. Yeah,
I'm gonna use that then, Gem Tomb. Okay.
yeah,
I'm glad you're
Jamtun.
here, man, because Abdullah just pointed something out. I didn't know, Abdullah, that he had started disrespecting Africa specifically till you just now wrote this in. Now, I'd heard him say stuff about being ADOS and how we were different, but I didn't know he had gotten a dissing black folks from other nationalities, or that he had singled out Africa. And I claim Africa because coming from the Gulf Coast, we got African customs we didn't even know came from the continent. And so, if that's the case, man, that already says a lot right there. That means we got a lot. You know what? Maybe we do need to go ahead and start roasting this cat then. Um, I mean, maybe we have to do it, even if we liked him, we used to rock with him. And here's the thing, Fuller, man, you might know how to do it. If somebody starts dissing Africa, man, what kind of ways do you roast them?
I mean, like for me personally, like I just say, well, I mean, look at what you're doing. You're doing everything that white people do. Like for example, when it comes to like these woke quote unquote hotep people, I'm like, you're doing everything white people do. You're lying, you're swindling, you're taking advantage of people, all in the name of like being woke. And you're talking about another group of black people, but you're doing the exact same thing that you're talking about the people you claim to dislike. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
and so I just go off of that angle. Like, how can you claim that you're pro-black this, woke this, and you're doing the exact same thing, taking people's money, taking advantage of women, and all in the name of being quote unquote conscious, and you're not building anything. You're not even like doing anything to like for the betterment of of your community. You're just talking about it and you're not doing it. So why are you talking about me? You know what I mean? Like
Okay.
why are you talking about my continent? You know what I mean? Like let's talk about what you're doing. You know, let's talk about you basically being a colonizer, like you having a black skin but being a colonizer at heart. Let's talk about that.
Validating the colonizer uh, in terms of what he's done back home, while trying to condemn him for what he's done to our people over there in the states.
Yeah, and not only that, like you talk about how you hate like Islam and stuff like that, but the information you're getting Islam from is coming from the very people you claim to hate. Make it make sense, please.
Okay. Did you ever hear Minister Jap say anything about hating Islam? Because I didn't hear it, but if he did, I'm gonna go in
Nah,
on him
nah,
about that
but
too.
the thing is like when people do this, when people give like I'm just gonna say when people give black women or women in general a lot of power and stuff like that, I can't really respect them because they're falling prey into what a lot of people what's wrong with the society right now is they're giving all these women this power and they're saying, you know what, they're right. They're doing this, they're doing that, and things like that. And then for the guys who have logic and who are not driven by their emotions, and for the most part are not beta or simping, it we're the one who gets the short end of the stick. And then that person who's doing that um gets to feel good about themselves, you know, despite the fact that they're still going to be looked at the same way by the woman. As a matter of fact, looked at as weaker, you know, by the women. So that's what gets on my nerves about the whole situation, you know.
Okay. And I saw in the chat where just now where Abdullah said that Jap from 2018 he'd been getting on Africans, and I didn't listen enough to really find him.
Right.
But he said that he was talking about how Africans don't mess with us and vice versa.
Yeah.
Now, since you from Guinea-Bissau, could you tell us which Africans around in the continent which
Right.
Africans specifically are known by other Africans to not mess with anybody else or not really rock with anybody else?
Okay. Well, I'm gonna be honest with you. From my experiences, because I have family in all over West Africa. Most of my family there in Bissau, Senegal, and Cape Verde. That's where my family is. So speaking from that perspective, I can tell you that, like, and just from being out here in my limited interactions with them, Ethiopians tend to keep to themselves for the most part. For some odd reason, though, Eritreans are more forthcoming and more open and things like that. It could be due to their struggle, the Eritrean struggle, which molded them and shaped how they are and their worldview and stuff like that. That could be the case. But from what I see, Eritreans don't really mess with a lot of people. I mean, excuse me, Ethiopians don't mess with a lot of people. Ethiopians tend to stay to themselves for the most part, from what I see.
I found that many of them would socialize with each other, but they wouldn't shut others out per se. That was what I found. But this is in Atlanta too, and this is back in the 90s.
Yeah.
But now, when it comes down to West Africans, who are the West Africans that are infamous for not really rocking with anybody else?
You know what? I can't really say that West Africans do that. I can't really say that West Africans do that. Maybe, shoot. I mean, I guess you can say to a certain extent, like Igbos from Nigeria kind of have that card for the simple fact that they want to push that Biafra and that separatism and all that crap. So they carry that in their like DNA, you know what I mean, by default. So I mean that's the only really ones I can think of. But since I've been out here, like in all the other places I've been, I've gotten on with Ivorians, I've gotten on with like Guineans from Conakry, I've gotten on with Cameroonians, which I consider West Africa still. Some people say Central, but I consider it West. The limited amount of Chadians I saw, like I got on with them, So I haven't really had that interaction with like West Africans, so to say,
Okay, gotcha. Well, I'll put it like this. In a nutshell, I was leading to that because it's understood, and you specified the nationality and the tribe within that are known to not rock with anybody else, and they're known to talk mad crap. So every time somebody says that, I automatically know who they came in contact with. That means they came in contact with this particular tribe from not only this nationality, but even from the old capital's area, because Lagos is not its capital anymore, but it was. But it's specifically that demographic that has this bad reputation. And the thing is, they've earned the bad rep for their whole nationality in South Africa, in the Emirates, in Malaysia, and even in the States.
Right.
They have earned that to the point that if you were, let's say you were,
true. Hey, that's true story with them South Africans, man. Like, they do have like this. I don't know, bro. They have some kind of funny thing going on with them, bro. For real.
Well, they do, and there's a certain degree of exceptionalism. They themselves have told me that they struggle with this type of exceptionalism and a type of ignorance of the rest of the continent, similar to what we African Americans had about the rest of the diaspora and continent. At one point, we didn't know that Jamaica was not in the continent. As an example, this was a common misconception of ours, long time ago, and so, like, there were South Africans that really thought that all of Black Africa spoke Zulu, and they really thought that like if you came from Tanzania and you didn't speak Zulu, then you had a speech impediment. That the
Oh,
Swahili was Zulu spoken with a speech. Some of them told me this where I work now because we have some South
oh,
African
that's
colleagues.
crazy. That's
And
crazy for them to have that mentality. That's bizarre.
well, and the thing is, it's not out of hatred. It started out of ignorance because of the information
Yeah,
they just didn't have. So they were cut off
yeah.
from leaving South Africa
Right.
during apartheid. They didn't get passports that easily, and
Yeah,
if
yeah,
they
yeah, yeah,
so I mean,
yeah,
if they did, they had to go into exile. Like Hugh Masekela, he had to live in Tanzania for a long time.
yeah,
And so, in a nutshell, I understood a lot of it was out of ignorance. But the thing is
yeah,
that because of that lack of exposure to the rest of the continent, for before 30 years ago, what wound up being the case was that when specifically that demographic within Nigeria that you just were able to single out, that you were
yeah.
able to identify, that Lagos
Right.
metro area Igbo crap talker, they went
Yeah,
into South Africa in large numbers. And now, as you know, South Africans are sick of all the other Africans in their country.
yeah, yeah.
Not
Nah,
all
nah.
of them.
I know that. Yeah, it's a xenophobia going on over there. You have that. You have them going hard on Somalians, going hard on Nigerians. You have that going on over there a lot right now.
And see, this is what happens when you forget. And this happened in the continent now. You and I know what happened in South Africa, which is the continent. But if it can happen, I mean, it happened on the continent that
Right,
Africans forgot that Africa was not a country.
right,
It
right,
happened
right,
on the continent. So it can
right.
certainly happen in the States, in a place like Chicago. And so if this is what we're dealing with Minister Jap, then that explains everything right there. I was unaware. So Abdullah just dropped a bombshell on me and explained
Yeah,
everything.
yeah. Now, who
Um,
is this character though? Who is this character? Like, is he one of these pro-black fake hoteps? Who is this character?
he
Is he?
didn't really, I didn't hear him claim to be pro-black so much,
Yeah.
but what he's very successful with the ladies in the Chicago area.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
and somebody that I'm in a Telegram group with confirmed that you could go on Instagram and you could see him actually getting all these broads just about every weekend and some weekdays, just
Okay.
steady macking and pulling them at the clubs and everything else.
Okay.
And this is what wound up happening. He started. I mean, he started telling us how these unattainable sisters in the states. We see them in the clubs. They bad as a feather mucker. He was saying, "Look, I'm getting them, and let me tell you how they actually live their life personally on a personal level." He's in their
Right.
guts, so he's definitely in their living rooms and in their apartments and bedrooms. And
Right.
he was
Right.
saying he was sitting up saying stuff like they got that's right. He said some of them had bad hygiene. He was talking about how funky, foul, trifling these wicked witches of the West were the ones he was getting. He was saying they funky,
Right.
foul, trifling. They don't wash properly. Their kids are staying with their mamas. They got air mattresses in their apartments. They got people. They're staying just ahead of an eviction notice, and they up in the club looking good, looking sharp, looking like they got everything together in front of you. And then when I actually get them, I'm seeing how trifling they are. So you guys don't need to be chasing after them. He called them German shepherds.
Yeah.
And the thing was, he was saying all this stuff. You know how the sisterhood responds, and they say, "Well, you just mad because you wasn't getting this in high school." They can't say
Yeah.
that with him. His
Yeah.
his
You can't say
Instagram
it.
would shut him up. So now he's sitting up and saying, "Well, why are y'all traveling? Why are some of you brothers traveling and marrying or wifing up some of these broads or paying for it, whatever one?" And what I'm saying is, I'm not going to promote the tricking, obviously, or the fornication in general, free or not.
Right.
But the thing is, you are the one, Minister Jap, that told us how trifling the Wicked Witch of the West is, the same one we can't get to in the club that you can get. You told us how trifling she is. She funky.
Well,
She throws the
I'm,
drawers in.
I'm just going to give you an example. Like, you know, my channel is not devoted towards just covering a cult or anything like that, covering this crazy ass cult, but the women in those cult is a perfect example of how trifling Western women are, and why, like, myself, why I wouldn't waste my time with any Western woman for that matter. It's for the simple fact that they feel like they feel like that they're owed the world. That's the whole issue. You feel like you're owed the world, and you already hit the wall already. Like, why am I going to try to give you the world when you already hit the wall? I mean, many people already like having multiple kids and stuff like that, and then you feel like you're entitled for the world, and it was you who made the decision to sleep with a man that you quote unquote now call a F nigga, and we're supposed to take the brunt of that. No, thank you. You know, I mean, I'm sorry to say it, but even when you deal with a foreign like woman, and I'm talking about a foreign black woman, their demeanors are completely different. You know what I mean? Their demeanors are way different, and so like, why would I waste time? You know what I mean? And then people get on me for not doing it. And it's like, listen, bro, you know, my tribe, we have more morals, and we have a code of honor that we follow. And imagine me bringing that back home to my folks. They're gonna be like, what the hell are you doing? You know, like, why did you settle? You didn't do, you weren't out here spreading your seed. Why? You know, they'll say that in essence, you know. So what would I look like with a Western woman who's basically, what would I look like with a Western woman who has a lot of mileage, so to say, and then decides they want to be a housewife? It doesn't work like that, because they don't even know how to be a housewife now. It's like you go through your stage, you do all of this, you're in the club with your friends, you're hooking up and things like that. Now all of a sudden when you hit the wall and it's all said and done, you want to be a housewife. No, thank you. I mean, for a weak male that'll work, but not for me. You know, that's just how I look at it. You know,
and that's exactly how I'm seeing it when it comes to that. When they trying to go through that stage, that phase, they insist on going through that, and then they
right,
want to turn around and be a housewife later on.
right.
And that's pretty much what we're all saying to them. And we're not here bashing the Western ones that don't go through that phase and then say, well, I'll be the housewife. If you take care of things, I'll make the house into a home. I mean, I've never heard anybody really get on those kinds of women. I've just heard some men
No,
say they don't believe that they don't think they'll ever find them. But I've never heard anybody get on even
nah,
the
we'll never
American.
get on that. We'll never get on them. We'll never get on those type of women. You know, it's just
Exactly.
it's just that, I mean, how you know, how common is that women in the West that exist? You know, that's the real question we have to ask ourselves.
Yeah. In a nutshell, we have to also ask ourselves too, what kind of man? Because to really shut down a dumb argument when people have really been misled, you got to show them how they've been misled. And we would
Right.
have to ask, if we're going to discuss this with them, we would have to ask, okay, listen, what kind of man would you respect if he was willing to make you a housewife after he knows you've been through a whole phase? There is one kind of man, but have they thought about the fact that they're limited to this kind of man? That kind of man is a dude that went through a similar whole phase, someone like Minister Jap, just going and back, knocking down different broads
Yeah,
every week.
yeah, definitely.
And the thing is, I mean, if he's the one, now he's not going to do it, but he's the one who could do so, because he could say, well, what you did, I also did to the same extent. He could do that and say, well, I'll tie the knot, I'll commit because we did the same thing. We come from the same past. And they might actually be able to respect him. Whereas if you didn't do these things, hell, if you did not fornicate and then you make her a housewife, she's gonna look at you like, okay, well, he's a good dude, but he's too good. I can't respect that. And so we would have
Exactly,
to bring that to their
exactly.
attention and say to them, what you're looking for is something you'll never respect a man that's going to give you unless he did the same thing you did. Now, the men who did the same thing you did are very few and far between. So now you're going to have to share those men.
Exactly. That's the thing. Like, you know, I learned something that that you can't really follow trends. Like, that's something you can't do. Like, I mean, even with Islam, like, you're kind of gonna be the odd man out if you're practicing it. You know, you're kind of gonna just be the odd man out by default. You know what I mean? Because in this society, drinking is prevalent. You ain't gonna be drinking. This society, fornication is prevalent. You ain't gonna be doing that. So you're kind of the odd, old-fashioned man out, you know, and that's why the West attacks Islam so hard, is because, like, Islam is equivalent to alpha manhood, because you're allowed to have 4 women, you know, granted that you can take care of them. You know, it's a hard job to do, but you're allowed to have that. You're allowed to express yourself in that kind of way. I mean, in the laws of fiqh, you know, a wife has her rights, but a wife is very much supposed to be available to you when you want to engage with her. You know, she has to make herself available to you. You know, of course, you don't want to. You're not forcing her, but you're just like, you know, that should be one of the things that is there for you. You know, being that you're providing and taking care of the household and, you know, doing what you do. And so, you know, you see these transgenders, you see you see these transgenders like gaining headway. You see, of course, the LGBT gaining headway. And, you know, of course, Islam, you know, the Prophet alayhi salatu salam cursed both of these groups. The Prophet alayhi salatu salam, he cursed both of these groups of people. So when he curses these groups of people, and you don't fall into these groups of people, and you don't want to be associated and promoting these groups of people, then automatically you're going to become a target, you know, because when you look at the whole faith itself, it's a very old-fashioned type of way of living with the modern touches, with the modern progression in terms of like technology and stuff like that, and in terms of like those type of things. But when it comes to like when it comes to the ground rules and the foundations and the moral foundations, you're very much going to be the odd man out. You know, that's how this is just how it works, you know.
Well, when it comes to being the odd man out, that can be a good sign. When you're the only one doing something, you're either doing far worse than everybody. In most cases, you're either doing far worse than everyone or you're doing far better. And if you're doing far worse, chances are you'll figure it out very shortly. But in a nutshell, the manhood question, even though we have it answered doctrinally, and alhamdulillah we do, and it does work. I mean, that's how I had nothing to do with this story that I told you all about, Jessica Justice. I'm not sure if you heard that one, but about the colleague of mine that got so drunk that she didn't remember which hotel room she was staying in when we were all working at a particular site, and so the project manager said, "Okay, you can sleep in my bed. I got a couch I can sleep on." Everybody else wasn't going to let her sleep in their bed because she was so drunk they thought that she might throw up in their beds. So and so she woke up, in a nutshell, creeped out because she didn't remember how she got into this other room. And so even though she woke up and saw the project manager sleeping on his own couch, having let her sleep on the bed because she couldn't remember what her room number was, and she was dumb enough to lose the key while out getting plastered. See, the thing is, fortunately, I had nothing to do with it because this revelation does work. And if you live by it, you actually get to see what you're sidestepping. If you just keep your eyes open and your ears open,
exactly.
Let people tell their business, or read. Even nowadays with the internet, you can read people telling stories, and you simply say, "Man, alhamdulillah for this revelation." It does work, but you got to you have to be willing to be that odd man out from the very beginning.
Right. That's true. And the thing is like, one thing is, this is the problem. This is like the main issue that is going on a lot with these Western women. These Western women have bought into into being a feminist instead of being feminine, you know, and there's nothing wrong with being feminine, but they want to be feminists. And so because of that, you know, they follow this sexual liberation crap, stuff like that. There was actually one Western woman, and this one Western woman was a Black woman. And you know, this is why, I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. A lot of Western Black women hate me. You know, a lot of them do, and you know, it is what it is. I'm not gonna compromise. Like someone told me early on that you can't put your expectations of me on me. So I'm going to be me regardless. You know what I mean? They're not going to be able to do anything about me being me. But believe it or not, they do dislike me a lot because I move different and, you know, I have a different way of looking at things. But believe it or not, one Black Western woman said every woman has a whole face. You know, she said every woman has a whole face, and she was kind of like pardoning women for having a whole face. And I'm like, are you serious? Like, this is okay to you? That you're this desensitized that you're actually having this opinion, basically? And like, for me, I'm a boxer and stuff like that. So what the hell do I look like if I'm out running my 4 miles a day, or even sometimes more a day, and then I say, okay, I want to settle with someone with mileage and who's sloppy? No, okay? No, it's not going to happen. That's just it. And then they get mad at you for having your opinion. Listen, if you have a body count, why would I'm not doing that. You know what I mean? So why do I have to cater to what you're doing? With the Prophet alayhi salatu salam, it was different because Khadijah, her husband's died. And when he married, it was just based on, it was a divine reason for him marrying the many women that he did. But also there was like social reasons for marrying all the women that he did, because he figured that, okay, if I marry this woman from this tribe, then this would maybe cease a conflict, you know, with that tribe, you know, because I have someone, I'm tied to someone, you know, matrimonially. So his reason was like, you know, there was a divine reason why he would marry like widow or something like that. But for us, it's different. Why do we have to settle for someone who has hella mileage? Like, why do we have to do that? You know what I mean? And I'm gonna be real with you, bro. And a lot of people aren't gonna like what I have to say, but a lot of these Western women are sloppy looking. I'm sorry, like they just look sloppy, you know, and then they expect us to, like, you know what I mean? Be Captain Saber Girl, you know. Sorry.
In a nutshell, you can argue as to if a man who, and we have in our verse that the fornicator is for the fornicatress and the pure is the pure for the pure. I can't remember which chapter that comes out of. I can't remember the chapter and verse, but I remember reading that. The thing is that people could argue as to whether or not the man that had his own whole phase has to settle for someone that has a whole phase. They could argue if they don't believe in our particular set of instructions, they could debate about that.
Right.
But the thing is, nobody can debate that a man who does not do this, even if it's because he can't, the fact that he didn't do it, whatever the reason, actually precludes him from even needing to settle for a lady that went through that. And LOM just pointed out, and now when LOM talks about things like this, he's doing it because he read stats, and he said that's why there are more women with STDs than men. And that does make sense. I mean, we already know that what's going on is most dudes aren't having a whole phase. They cannot. The cock carousel that the women are riding is composed of a few cocks. It's not composed of many. So most men are not allowed to form that carousel by these ladies. The ladies are insisting on sharing the same few roosters, if you will. And so, yeah, they're going to pick up these STDs from a few men because they're only really riding the carousel with a few men. It's only a few men they're allowing to form this carousel. Therefore, they don't have a leg to stand on to turn around and tell the rest of us what kind of past from them we should accept. Because hands down, the average man has a cleaner past than the average woman in the West because he has to. It's the way
That's the
it's the
true
way
story.
everybody set it up that way. So what Minister Japp was pretty much saying is, you in the West who can't form this carousel because you wouldn't be allowed to, because most of you would not be allowed to. Most of us would not be allowed to. You should still go ahead and stay here and pay even more to settle for someone that has this kind of past. Don't get your passport and go over there thinking you're going to find better, but yet and still, everybody that's gotten a passport has pretty well, I'll put it like this. Every black man that's gotten that passport and bounced has pretty much said that in certain parts of the world, they get treated better.
Yeah, and it's true. It's true. It's true. Like, I got one guy who's a boxing analyst. Shout outs to him. Shout outs to Dante's Boxing Nation. Shout out to him. You know, he did the same thing. He got a passport. He went to Thailand. He set up shop. He got a Thai wife. And you know, from what I see, his wife is quiet, calm, cool, and collected. Whereas, like, if he were to deal with women from his neck of the woods, he would be going through it. You know what I mean?
Exactly, he would. And I know a Muslim cat. He's from East Africa. Actually, I think he's from Eritrea, if I'm not mistaken, or his parents are. As a
Right.
matter of fact, make dua for his father because his dad is in ICU right now. He's an elder man, but he suffered a fall, and it's led to one health problem after another
Oh,
while in recovery. So
wow.
make dua for his dad. But he left. He went to the Philippines. He went to the southern Philippines, found him
Yeah.
a Muslim, and got married. And he said that the only his only regret now is that he still has to go back to the States and work half the year to save up the money to spend half the year in the Philippines with his wife, and that
Right.
now a lot of travel was restricted due to COVID. That's the only thing that's bothered him so far about it.
Right.
He was about to actually leave and go back, but then his dad slipped and fell, and he's staying in the hospital with his pops now.
Right.
And I mean, forget about my story. Let's look at his story.
Right.
And so this is something that they've been saying. But here's the other thing too: brothers ain't just saying they get treated better abroad than they get treated in the West. They're even saying in places like Southeast Asia, where your man's went, where my man went, Philippines and Thailand. They're even saying that when they go there, they're being treated better than these same ladies from there would treat a man from the mayonnaise mafia. In other words, we're treated over there like we are preferred even over the colonizer, over massa's grandkids.
Yeah. Yeah. To a certain extent, that does work. I'm not gonna lie to you. You know, I have a sister because of our country's history with Cuba, and Cuba is basically African. You know, I have a sister who studies medicine in Cuba, so I went to go visit her. And honestly, you know, it was like, you know, if I wanted to have my pick of the litter, trust me, it wouldn't have been a problem, you know, if I was there looking for that. Now, as far as the pilgrim is concerned, he has to pay for his pick of the litter, you know, for the most part. That's what it comes down to when he goes there, or when he goes to any of these foreign places. He's paying for his pick of the litter. But for me, you know, I didn't really feel that way whatsoever. You know, it was
Mhm.
actually pretty easy if I wanted to have that. And they were, as a matter of fact, the crazy thing about them is that, you know, because they're not into this whole makeup video model culture over there, they actually look more natural, and they actually still look like real women. You know what I mean? So that's one thing I can say about that, in regards to that, you know. So you may be onto something with that, with what you just said.
Well, we're seeing that even ironically, even at my job, we're seeing that. We're seeing that. Okay, there was one guy. He was one of the pilgrims. I mean, he's generally a nice guy to me, but he was pretty much a jerk to some other people. He even got into fist fights with some other cats.
Oh
But
shoot! Oh shoot!
imagine an English teacher supervising an exam, and then he picks a fight with a Canadian in front of other students, and then gets his
Oh,
butt whooped.
oh shoot! Oh,
He one of them cats. I mean, he thought, first, well, he watched too many Rambo movies. I'll put it like that.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, 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 yeah.
he was
That's
one of he was one of those guys. America. He always bragging about war stories that didn't add up, because he'd tell
yeah,
you one story about teaching in a country in 2004, and then he'll tell
right,
you another story about how he saved some tribe in Afghanistan in 2004. It's like,
right,
wait, which
right,
which
right,
one
right,
was it?
right. Yeah, yeah.
So
Which one is it? Which
he
one
was
is
one
it?
of Well, he was one of them cats, and he wound up getting a girlfriend in Thailand through the internet. And when he was getting ready to resign from the company here, he'd saved up about 10 grand US. And so he sent it over to her and said, "Okay, look, hold it for me. I'm about to fly over there." And then he didn't hear from her no more.
Yeah,
So
that's how it goes. That's how it goes. Like a lot of the time with them, they know they have. The thing is they know that economically, most of the time, the pilgrim is going to be like established. They understand that, So when a black man steps into that world or steps into that spectrum, here's a black man who's traveling, which means that he probably has some scratch, and he's also like just he's more inclined to he's more naturally he's more in his natural disposition than the pilgrim is. Then they're going to be drawn to that most of the time you know
yeah, and the thing is that when it comes down to it, what you don't hear a lot of brothers saying is, "Well, she just took me for my money." Now you do hear some brothers saying, "Well, she came back to the States and got with Boom Shika and Becky and flipped on me." And then you might hear them saying that she went and took that money from him, maybe through the course. But you don't hear these guys saying that they were being taken for their dough while they were over in these areas. You see, that's not what they're talking about. That's not their complaint. But I'm talking to these pilgrims, and they'll pretty much tell you, whether it was in Korea or in the tropical parts of Southeast Asia, what they're saying a lot of times is they've been used for their dough. They thought they were going to go there and just find them somebody that was young and still nice to look at and was going to treat them like a king. And it's like they can't pay enough money to get them to act right. And then Junebug goes over there and he has to pay the cost to be the boss, sure, but he doesn't have to like take care of the whole village and family. So, in a nutshell, he doesn't. The Minister Knapp, doesn't have a leg to stand on to say, "Well, y'all don't need to travel," because if a man is traveling to trick, the problem for you and me, the problem is tricking. For Abdullah, the problem is that he's tricking. It's not the problem that he's traveling. If he's going there just to be somebody's boyfriend, then the issue was that he's not engaging in a marriage. But the thing is that if a man is traveling to marry, then even then, it doesn't cause a problem with him or with her. All it does is it stops the Wicked Witch of the West from being able to find one more target
right,
to utilize as a retirement plan after going through this whole phase.
right.
So, in that reality, we got to stop and think: why is it a big deal to some of these guys if cats like us travel? Let's say, forget about the tricking and the boyfriend, but let's say travel to marry. Why is it a big deal to these guys if we traveled to marry? Wouldn't that leave more of these broads for them?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking. Like, why are you concerned with why are you concerned with like what we're doing? I'll give you a perfect example. um there's this one Hotep baby mama. Okay, she's a Hotep baby mama, and I know for a fact that she's STDs ridden, and And even at her young age, she looks sloppy. I'm like, yeah, she looks sloppy. She's not really attractive. But then out the woodworks comes Hotep, this Hotep Negro saying, okay, yeah, she is attractive. No, 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 she is. And I'm like, no, she's not. I mean, at her young age, she already looks like she's hit the wall. She's not attractive. I just straight out kept it a buck. And I told him that if you travel or see the women in other places, you won't say that. Your perspective is different. That's why, like, me personally, like, I know it sounds bad, but when I went to Cuba, um, and when I went to Eritrea, I never looked at Western women again in like terms of like just looking at them like, oh, she's pretty, I never looked at them again because I know what else is out there, because I know what else I saw. And you can't even compare the two, you know? So why the thing is, if you've seen and experienced something else that's better, why would you even entertain something here when you know there's better out there? And why is there and for this cat, why is it a problem that you're trying to that you're in essence trying to be the best version of yourself? Because your woman says a lot about you. The woman you're with says a lot about you.
Mm-hmm.
So why is he getting mad at you trying to be the best version of yourself?
Well, I have a suspicion, and if it sounds crazy for any reason, feel free to let me know. But my suspicion is that these men they can't extract the same resources out of these ladies above or below the belts. They can't get as much out of these ladies through the panties or through the wallet if there aren't responsible men who are naive about women that these ladies could take advantage of. Because
No,
if you think
you
about
don't sound crazy at all. You don't sound crazy at all.
okay, all right, I thought about that and it's gone
Because
through my
you
head a
have
few
a very
times.
good point. You have a very good point. The
Mm,
beta simp is going to be the financial resource, right? And since the beta simp is too nice and stuff like that, he's going to spend money, this, that, and the other, in hopes that she's going to be like, yeah, you're the one for me, this, that, and the other, all while she's getting her back blown out by the dude who doesn't have the resources.
mhm. Well,
So, right, you're correct.
that seems to be the case that happened with OJ. Now, there are some detectives that think that OJ is not the one that did her in, but that rather it was his son. Some detectives theorized that. I
Mm-hmm.
tend to believe that because I don't think OJ would have ever expected to even get away with something like this.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas his son had a temper problem, so he'd have motive and the temper to do this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing was that what was going on is he had to pay her alimony.
Right.
And she was never going to marry Ron Goldman because she was getting his alimony check, but she was still going to be with Ron Goldman.
Mm-hmm.
And as a man, you understand that if you divorce a lady and what she does after that ain't your business,
Right.
but she doesn't have the right to take your money to go pay a man to fornicate with her.
Right. Right.
Because
Right.
most men are never going to be paid to fornicate. They actually have
Right.
to pay. Most men have to pay out the nose, whatever kind of sexual encounters they have, marital or non-marital. So you're not going to sit up and accept that kind of insult. Oh, okay, so I got to pay to play, but then when we're done playing, I got to pay you to pay some other dude to play. I mean, fit the duck out of my face with that sure bet. So, I mean, he had a motive. It's just I don't think he was that dumb the way he really thought he was going to get away with it. But then when his son turns up with blood on him and a knife, like you ain't gonna have to worry about that be no more. Well, as a dad, I would probably go ahead and try to look a little more guilty than him to keep the spotlight off of him. Uh, And that's just my theory. But the point I'm making is that that's exactly what the situation was over there. She's with Ron Goldman. Now, mind you, she has a pair of boobs that OJ bought for her from a plastic surgeon, you see.
Right.
And so this young cat's got too sweet of a deal, but it's at OJ's expense, literally. And I'm just saying that in a nutshell, that's just one example, a high profile example. Well, looks like he dropped the connection. So anyway, gentlemen, I'm going to give him time to come back in. I think Fuller's phone dropped, but you guys feel, chime in the chat like you're doing. Let me know. Does it seem to me like that's an insane theory that these cats are worried about guys with passports because they somehow? I mean, do you think these guys like Minister Knapp even know that the intimate, like the financial things they're getting from these ladies are coming at the expense of some other dude? Do you think they know this? Are they thinking that far? Or are they talking against guys having passports and finding better deals abroad because of something else? I mean, what do you all think it is going on? While we're waiting on Fuller Mind to come back, what y'all think is going on? Okay, Abdullah gave a reason. Okay, I see that Abdullah said, I think the reason these cats are bothered by brothers traveling is because it eventually affects their bottom line and it further exposes the incompatibility of women here in the West. Jay Ham said, that's what I think. Who's going to give them resources if men are traveling and just not playing the game? And Red Sift Lord says, it's both. So in that case, it seems like others have had the same theory that I've had, that not just okay, I see. All right. I see what you guys have said too. LOM says, I think they're faking the funk. And Jaws has said, they say they don't have respect for the guys who trick, but most of the time they expand it to everyone that travels. This right there says everything, because everybody traveling ain't tricking. Most people traveling can't really travel to trick. Most really can't do it for that reason. That's not how a lot of us got used to it. Most of us learn, we get introduced to it through business ventures or through the military, and quiet as it's kept, gentlemen. Quiet as it's kept, there's some of us that actually get introduced to traveling in the Americas due to pro-blackness. That's the other thing that a lot of us have not talking about. And Red Ream says, now, Nick, your point is valid. If someone tells you she's on an air mattress, you're going to not think twice about it because you ain't on no air mattress. I just had to put Red Ream's point up here. He says they're thinking that far. Because if they lose that bait of safety and security, dudes wake up, they're going to use all the shaming tactics to get their power back. So he says they definitely know what they're doing. They know what happens if guys the guys who are being told to pay anyway in the States and told to pay more decide they're going to go elsewhere. LOM has a different take on this, Red Reams. He says the betas will be exposed for what they are. And what LOM is saying is that the betas are the ones that don't have to have anything, but they're getting these draws. Because they don't have to work on themselves. They've never done it. So they wind up actually being the beta. So what LOM is saying, Red Reams, is that the betas are the ones that everybody else thinks are alphas. The alpha in the club is actually the beta. Spec says they lose their retirement plans. Now that's true spec streaming for the broads themselves. The ones going through the whole phases, they know. We bounce, they lose their retirement plans. They know that. I'm just wondering, spec streaming, if cats like, not just Minister Knapp either. And I'm only saying his name like that so that hopefully this video doesn't get flagged. Because people, if they type in his name as it is, then the comments don't even go through. And that's not me doing it. I typed in a comment to answer Abdullah bin Babi Tayyib's question. And I put his name in there, spelled as it is, and the comment was stopped. It was taken out. It wasn't me that did it. So I'm assuming that it might happen with the voice too, and I'm just being careful. So Minister Knapp, I'm just one of the cats like Minister Knapp, Mr. Dom Game Division. You know what I'm saying? Telling us about the mask that they wear and then telling us to be okay with it. I'm just wondering if these guys want to shame passport holders who travel, whether it's for tricking to be a boyfriend or to marry. I'm just wondering if they're involved in that argument because they've thought ahead, because they realize that that financially they might stand to gain from these ladies as long as these ladies have some guys here, but not here actually, but where you guys are, that they can go to for resources. I'm wondering if they've thought that far ahead, because I used to think maybe they didn't think that far ahead, but now I'm beginning to think, no, they may have. I said this a long time ago that they must have thought this far. Then I started to doubt it. And then now I'm starting to wonder about that again. Maybe that is the case. Maybe they thought this far ahead and they've said, you know what? Yeah, at the end of the day, we know who it is that's paying them. We know who's going to maintain them, and it ain't going to be us. Gentlemen, you know what? It just crossed my mind. If these men have thought about this, who would have put them up on that? Who would have made them realize? Who would have brought this to their attention? Who would have brought this to their attention? It would have been the ladies that they were with. Think about it. If you're Minister Knapp and you know you just pulling them left and right, even the married ones, even the ones that are supposed to have somebody, you pulling them and they're not answering their phone with you because it's their man calling. Jaws, what you said is exactly what I was getting at. They would have brought it to their attention. They would have told him, I'm with him for the money. I need that money and he's got it. You're my type, he's my purse. You're my type, he's my account, he's my ATM card. Gentlemen, if these men have been told this in the bed by these ladies, then that means that they were never really on your side to begin with, when they're now saying to you, don't go for a better option. First, I wasn't sure how much they were aware of it, how many of them were aware of it. But what I'm seeing is that this is a very common thing, a pattern that's developing. They just come out and they say this stuff one after the other. Stupid Sly 75 started this thing, as far as I know, lying and saying that brothers were doing illegal things. Okay, no, full of sports, you're not booted. I didn't boot you, sir. I don't know if somebody at StreamYard did, I'm not sure, but I didn't boot you. No, man, you can come back whenever you're ready. Let me see here. Abdullah put this up here. I heard about that documentary. I think I may have seen parts of it. And when I first saw it, I actually tried to listen with open mind, and I thought, well, they both seem to have valid points. That's actually what I thought at the time. I thought about that because, frankly, I had a relative that was going to Brazil. He's a well-to-do, successful physician. He might still be going. He'd take these trips there. And he would say, man, I get spoiled when I go. And he's been to the DR too. Hell, he took another cousin of mine to the DR with him. Because I remember, because that cousin was, before I was getting ready to marry the lady in North Africa that I later married, I was visiting my hometown, and this cousin and I was swimming, and he was telling me about it. He's talking about when he went with his other cousin to the DR. And he said, I know why people travel. I get it. I know why they go. But see, there's something else I wanted you all to see too, right after Abdullah's comment. It's this. You know, Jaham, I thought Minister did. I actually thought he did shame them for stuff like that, because he was calling them German shepherds, talking about the trifling things they'll do if they can. I thought some of these cats were doing that. But Jaham said a lot of them are giving one man's money to another man with whom they're cheating. They give the money of the man on whom they're cheating to the man with whom they're cheating. And I'll tell y'all something else too, cats. Gentlemen, this is an older story, and I mentioned it before in a previous recording, I think. But there was a judge, and this is a long time ago. There was a judge on the Gulf Coast who sentenced some criminal. I forgot what the crime was, but this was back in the 1990s, maybe 93 or 94. She sentenced a defendant for a crime, and she gave less than the minimum sentence. Now, there was no going back and changing it, but the sentence she gave was less than the minimum. When she gave him that sentence, he got out on parole eventually. His sentence was not supposed to include a parole. When he got out, they wound up having an affair. The judge, married to a minister, married to a church pastor with 2 children, wound up having an affair with the defendant that she sentenced, who was subsequently out on parole, that was not supposed to be a possibility in his sentence according to the guidelines at the time. She was carrying on with this cat, and the husband knew something was up. So he got her to confess, and it was recorded, and he turned it into law enforcement, because this was not simple adultery. This was her messing around, carrying on with a defendant while she was on the bench. She had to make restitution for the investigation, and she couldn't practice law for 60 days on the bench or as an attorney. Now, she was spending money, and granted, she was a judge, so she had money, but she was giving this defendant money. For the most part, she didn't want him to go and commit crimes and get sent back. And he went to another city and did some, I think it was robberies or something, either burglaries or robberies. He still went to one of the bigger cities and did it. Went on a spree and got picked up again. And I think that might have been how some other people found this out too. Spectreman's right. He would have lost his license to practice forever. That's true. Probably wouldn't have even been able to go to another state. So this is older than what we think. It's just that at that time it was a scandal. But the funny thing is, people were actually willing to keep this under wraps. I wasn't supposed to know about it myself. Now, here's the funniest thing, though. Long time ago, I went up on Facebook and I looked her up. She's on Facebook. She's giving talks on Facebook. I don't know what it's about. She's not a judge, but she's practicing. She's still practicing law, and she's married. It looks like she's married. Either she's married or she's got a serious boyfriend. So this has been going on for a while, and this is what they're getting. I mean, we're talking about judges now, even when they're married to pastors. Now, the pastor was not a simp. That man dropped her like a bad habit and never looked back. Gone. And I don't even know if she was giving his money to the crook or she was giving her own money. The pastor should have been upset either way, and he was upset because what she was not doing was screwing the pastor, her husband, and giving him any money. That wasn't the case. She had a job, but I don't, knowing what we now know, I don't think that she was paying bills and anything like that. He had to pay the bills. He had to pay the cost to be the boss. And he paid it. She turned around and was putting money in another man's pockets and letting him hit that. So these men, understand, these men that tell you how trifling they are at times are not making this up. Minister Knapp is not making up these stories about these ladies. Minister Knapp was telling us the truth. He's the reason that a lot of men knew to get passports. All you got to do is tell somebody this particular store has rotten inventory and you're going to walk to the next store. That's what you're going to do. And that's exactly what men have been doing. I said that yesterday. That's why this is titled as it is, that your detractor is your supporter. He's actually the one that gave us the ammo. I mean, he's not the only one, but he's one of many, but he's a very integral and necessary member of those who was giving us ammo to get these passports and bounce and say, whatever you're looking for, and I hope it's marriage, but whatever you were looking for, you were not going to find stateside or in the West in general. You were going to find elsewhere. Not that elsewhere is a paradise, but you were going to find what you were looking for. And you weren't necessarily going to be set up for robbery and everything else that's insulting to you at the time, because it's not in their best interest to do that all the time. So, and he set up and told you why you should have passports. Cats with passports just listened and said, okay. If it wasn't from him, they learned it from somebody else. Because I mean, Alan Roger Curry was one of those cats. He's sitting up here telling you what they're doing. Alan Roger Curry is telling you what women are doing for him, and they married to somebody else. He's bragging about, he used to brag about digging out other men's wives and tell stories about how he had to run from other men, these husbands at times, because they were going to kill him. He admitted he was the type of dude that would dig out his homeboys' girlfriends in high school. He admitted this stuff. And so he set up and told us what they were doing. And when Obsidian said, if this is the type of stuff that these broads are doing, how dare they come talk this pro-black race loyalty stuff to us? If they're able to do this and get away with it, and the men to whom they're doing this are supposed to be shamed because someone did this to them. The husbands are supposed to be shamed because she did this to him. And you're to be celebrated because you did this to the husband behind his back. Then the community can drown in its own blood, face down. I don't feel a guck. And Alan Roger Curry decided to try to shame Obsidian for that. That's why they're not cool to this day. That's right, Charles. They say don't let them disrespect you. So you go somewhere where you don't have to be disrespected just because she's fine and they tripping now. Something's wrong with you. But guys, even that's not all of it. Understand that the false accusations are the weapon. That's what I'm talking about today and focused on. That's what the weapon is. And so you're going to have to go ahead and start weaponizing certain things against them, such as, well, number one, that's slander. And if we decide to sue you, can you afford to defend yourself, or are you going to wind up having to settle? Because we could see to it, some of us could, especially those of you that are in the States, you could see to it that if they're going to keep saying this stuff, they're going to have to either bring forth proof of it or pay a lawyer to protect them from you, or pay you settling with you so they don't have to pay a lawyer too much to drag the case out. They're going to have to prove or pay somebody, take money from them they probably don't even have. Force them to go and get some real jobs off YouTube so they can make them payments to you, get judgments on them. If that's what you can weaponize, weaponize it. If there's something else you can weaponize against them, go ahead. And see, I'll tell y'all this. I said yesterday to some other guys, off of YouTube, I said yesterday to some other gentlemen, if we're going to respond to Minister Knapp, let's give the benefit of the doubt and not assume that the guy getting knocked out in the video is him. Let's not make that assumption. Let's say maybe it's not him. I didn't think it was. I saw the resemblance, but I wasn't sure that they were the same one because I couldn't match the voices. I couldn't prove that the voices were the same or different people. Because in the video, they're talking at the same time. I could even say, you know what? Even if that was Minister Japp, he didn't run from the guy. Nothing like that. He just got hit first on the chin and was unconscious. Yeah, that's right, Spec Streaming. The man's gonna always be the one blamed. The one cheated on is gonna always be the one blamed. When I would find out that somebody cheated, I knew not to tell anybody that didn't know us very well, didn't know me very well. But whatever we can find to weaponize against them, we need to do it. And if you got to resort to that video, I wouldn't say assume it's him, but I would say, look, Knapp, I'm sorry. I would say, listen, Knapp. Even if that's not you in that video, if you're going to sit up and say that we're going and doing criminal things for which we could be not only jailed, but killed abroad because you think it or because someone else said it, that gives us even more right to say that that was you on that video getting knocked out. And it gives us the right to lie about what we saw in the video. Yeah, I saw him try to run and he still got knocked out. Start adding stuff to it. The logic is the same. And as a matter of fact, it's more likely to be him because that dude on the video has a stronger resemblance to him than anyone traveling and actually doing disgusting criminal things bears to us, any resemblance they would bear to us. So look at the resemblance between him and the guy that gets knocked out in the video. Look at the resemblance between the ones that go to places and do unspeakable things to people that are underage, including outright children, and see which resemblance is stronger. Cats like Super Sly, didn't he admit that he practices witchcraft? I'm asking, I'm not saying that, I'm asking you all. Because I already heard it once. If someone else says it, that's a confirmation. If that is the case, weaponize it. Because they're the ones that are doing the false accusations. When it comes to these false accusations, weaponize whatever you got. Because that's not a laughing matter. They may be false. I'm sure that they're false, actually. I mean, hell, if I did something like that over here, I would have already been decapitated. All it takes is proof. Maybe a hard thing to prove, but boy, all it takes is some kind of strong physical evidence, and I'm going to be convicted, and it ain't going to be long after that, I'm going to be decapitated. So that would be stupid of me to do. And at least over here, I would actually live to get a trial. That's what would happen in the Gulf. You could be one of them real serious criminals, but you will live to get a trial. They'll protect you until the time of your execution. Because here the system works, it's strong. How stupid would you have to be to go somewhere where the system ain't that doggone strong? How dumb would you have to be? You think them cops in the DR want to waste time and the government's time and money on a trial when they could just as easily have an emergency bathroom break while you're in lockdown and let another inmate teach you how wrong what you did was? You see what I'm getting at, guys? Weaponize it, man. Make them look like not only are they lying, but they stupid in lying. And that's why people are knocking them out on video. Yeah, the women are using these talking points. That's true. And the other thing too, you could say is, look, you know what? There's no video of me with anyone. Ain't no video, but you're on video with these broads. Your own videos. Apparently, if what I heard about Instagram is true, do you have any evidence that they are of age, sir? Don't ask us to judge their age by the video. What proof do you have? Now, you're not seen doing anything illegal on these videos, but the fact is you're leaving with them. Do you have any evidence that they're old enough to leave with you of their own consent and walk off camera? Other thing too, gentlemen, is this. And I want to put the link in here. Give me a moment. I'm about to grab the link in a minute. We're going to have to go to other platforms. Now, what he did was on Facebook. What Minister Knapp just recently did was on Facebook. But what we need to do is start going to other platforms, Black-owned social media platforms, if we can find them. And I'm going to give you all the link to a group I got. It's on another social media platform. Some of y'all already know about it, actually. We can make this thing more active, more than likely. Let's see here. All right, I got it. This is on a Black social media platform, the link that I'm about to send you guys right now. You can start an account on there. Works about like Facebook. It's not that active yet, but that's because we haven't flooded it. If we go in there and we're the ones with the red pill awareness, we go into this platform and we flood it first, then they're beholden to us. Now, right now, this platform is getting a trickle of support. It's getting a trickle of support from Black people, period. I started to see Polish folks, Chinese folks, other people start to go in on here. We don't want them to become beholden to them. We don't even want them to become beholden to matriarchal mandingos like NYEA over here. Assuming that I'm reading the statement or understanding the intention of the statement correctly. And if I misunderstand it, feel free to correct me, because I don't want to go after, I don't want to bring smoke to someone that's not really trying to start a fire. I'm not trying to do that. But I'm going by the obvious meaning of what I see in the chat. We don't even want folks like Minister Knapp to be the ones to whom they wind up becoming beholden later on, or Mr. Dom Game Division, or any other dating roach for that matter. I mean, Coach Red Adams is actually cool with me because he's not really a coach for that. He's more so a coach on how to avoid their snares and traps. He's not really a coach for how to impress them and get them to validate you when they're trained to not validate really anybody except 7 to 15% of all men. He's not even doing that. So when I talk about these dating roaches, I'm not blasting Coach Greg Adams. But some of these others that talk about when you just need to have frame and learn game, we don't even want these Black-owned social media platforms to become beholden to them. And I'm gonna tell y'all why it could possibly happen. There's one called Melanated People. And I've joined it under my own name, but as a red pill aware man, I can't join it. I can't join it as Black Mind because they say no misogyny. Now, when they tell you no misogyny, I'm against that. It doesn't make sense to anybody hate agenda because they're that gender. That's illogical to you and to me and to anybody with a rational mind. But what they really mean is, don't you come in here with that red pill awareness. Don't yank the covers off the games that the wicked witch of the West is going to play at your expense. That's really what they're saying. Let them victimize you. Let them go through the whole phase with 15 to 17, with 15 to 7% of most men they see, and then turn around and come back to the rest of the 85 to 93 that they really never wanted as a retirement plan after the whole phase. That's really what they're saying. That's what they mean. So it's too late for them. But let's say we go to Black Junction as an example. If we're the ones that go into Black Junction, you can start an account and you don't even have to join the group. I just put up the link to. You don't have to. It's up to you. If you do the request to join it, for about the next hour and a half, I'll go in and look and see, and I'll approve the request. And then this way, when we're the ones who flood that particular platform, they're beholden to us. It will no longer make financial sense for them to start censoring us unless they get government funding or something to make up for it from somebody else, some other source. We would need to do this because this gives us the ability, to a certain extent, to kick out people when they flip. If they're sitting up here like Mr. Dom Game Division used to be, just like one of us, talking about the games, protect yourself from these games, then they turn around next year and they start to blame you because you don't have the ability to read their minds, to read Boom Shika's mind, Bonquisha's mind, and Sapphire's mind, because you ain't got time to be in the gym. And he gonna sit up and blame you and start talking about you give off creepy, rapey vibes like you did something wrong. It wasn't you. Then, hey, look, we can kick him out. Okay, let's see here. You sound stupid like you hate dark. Now, why would I hate dark? I was actually about to see something, about to look and make sure that I wasn't misunderstanding what it was that the troll is saying, but let me go ahead and kick this troll out. And here's why. This ain't no further mucking democracy. Here, this is gospel. Thanks a million, Abdullah. I appreciate that, man. I was looking on the StreamYard screen. That's why I didn't see this right off the bat. But I went, yeah, now I came in and saw it on the YouTube screen. I could just go ahead and put him or her out. But see, that's just it. This ain't no democracy. Playing fair is when we win. Let that be understood, gentlemen. Don't let anybody ever tell you different. Playing fair is a fair fight when the good guy wins. So no, gentlemen, we can take over these platforms so that the next time somebody flips like Minister Knapp or before him, Mr. Don Game Division, I'm saying, before the next time somebody like that flips, we're just like, okay, thank you for what you did for us before. Gone. And the thing is, if I flip, I don't mean if I hold men accountable for the things over which we had control and about which we actually had adequate knowledge. I don't mean that. That's just being fair. But the minute I start trying to blame dudes for stuff that's beyond their control and telling guys to accept the losing deal and not resist and not fight back and so-called man up and take what's wrong and unfair, the minute I start doing that, y'all don't kick black mind to the curb. Because if I do that, I deserve it. If I flip like these cats flip, I deserve it. Depose me from whatever I'm sitting on at that time. So in any case, that's one link right there. And if y'all find, if y'all find other links to other male-friendly or black male-friendly social media platforms, hey, let me know. You can even share them inside of the group that I just to which I just gave y'all the link. Y'all can do that. I'm gonna check over about the next half hour to see if anybody's trying to get, if anybody's asking for, anybody's asking to join. I'll check and see. Before I cut this off, cut it short. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah wa barakatuhu, Mr. Powell. Yeah, J-Ham, they want us to eat a bowl of crap, and that's exactly what the hell we here to not do. Because all this means is it's a war, and they here to make sure we lose. And it doesn't even make sense. Yeah, death before dishonor. Because if they get what they want, you're going to wish you were dead. If they get what they want, you will walk out of a family courtroom one day with a new decree in your hand and your assets gone so that she could spend it on him. That's what they're looking for. And you want to die at that point. That's exactly what will happen if they get their way. So before I go, any questions, anybody, before I take off? Mr. Power, you need to go back on to Telegram, man. If you jumped on with the same number, I'd find you. Believe that. Yes, Abdullah. Yeah, I need to see more of that content, man. I'm sure that I subscribed, but I didn't get any notifications lately. And Jay Christie, did you get the link to that? Okay, you're on Telegram now. Cool. Now, did you get the link that I just sent? This one, the Black Junction link. Because that's another one too. And if you join Black Junction, I'm there as Black Mind. That's me. And if you join that, you could request to join the group. And the other thing too is if you find Black Mind on there, and I'll put that link in too. If you find Black Mind on there, guys, then and I add you, then I can also add you to the group. That's my profile on it. One of the reasons that I kicked off NYEA was so that she wouldn't be able to see this too. And I'm assuming that NYEA is not a guy. I'm just going to assume. Okay. Well, no, you have to actually get rid of an account. No, I don't know. Maybe if you don't go onto Telegram for 6 months, I think they will close out the account automatically. But if you got a new phone, same number, then I think you'd be able to just restart the account. I think so. In any case, I could send you my username, Mr. Powell, but the problem is that would mess up. That would really mess up my privacy because then my number would just be out there. But if you need the number or the username on Telegram by which to find me, you can use Black Junction to go in, and then I can send it to you directly if that's what you need. So it doesn't look like anybody's really got questions, but write those down. blackjunction.com/blackmind is me personally, and then just Black Manosphere/Black Manosphere is how you can at least ask to join the group. And in either case, if you request me and I add you, or if you request me, just tell me who you are so that I'll know. And then I can add you anyway to the group, or you could request to join the group. Just let me know who you are, and then I'll put you in the group. And then see this way, yeah, that way we've got a way to shut out the riffraff or to throw them out when they flip like that. All right, gentlemen, listen. I appreciate you all being patient. I really do. Full of sport. I'm glad you came on. Thanks a million, man. I'm sorry for I'm sorry about whoever kicked you off. I certainly didn't. And I don't know what happened, but I'm glad you came on when you did. Plus, I'm about to be in touch anyway. And also, that being said, we'll close out like this. David Cummings, I guess I'll answer your question. All right, cool, Abdullah. Wait a minute, I think you on it already though, Abdullah. Yeah, I think you're on it, but I'll go in and look again though. But David Cummings, to answer your question, I heard about that man from Morpheus. bought him a self-inflicted gunshot wound. He did himself in. And the more I know, the more sad I feel. I understand that he must have been battling with depression. And he didn't even say that it was because of the broads per se, but because it was the West in general. And to be honest with you, David, if that's what he's battling, man, I had experience with that when I was young too. And it's gotten a lot better since I left, man, since I left the West. So I wish that we didn't have to battle that kind of depression. But when you're really conscious and you're stuck in the West, you're going to be in a constant state of rage or depression, one way or the other. All right. Well, gentlemen, thank you all for coming in. You're very welcome, Jahan. Y'all know how I do when I sign out. Thank you all for coming and listening. Assalamu alaikum. Black heart, black mind, black out. Black heterosexual, non-select male power, and black patriarchy until extinction or judgment day.